Daijung wiped the grease from his hands onto his worn work pants. The maintenance bay of Harmony Point Station hummed with the sound of air processors and cooling systems. He had spent the last 6 hours fixing a broken ventilation unit in Sector 7. His back ached and his fingers were sore. It was just another normal day on the massive space station that floated between 3 different star systems. He walked through the corridors toward the cafeteria, ready for a hot meal and some rest. But as he turned the corner near the diplomatic wing, he stopped. A crowd had gathered near the main observation deck. Daijung was curious. He moved closer, standing on his toes to see over the taller aliens in front of him. That was when he saw her. She stood near the large window that showed the stars outside. Her skin looked like it was made of crystal, smooth and reflecting light in ways that seemed impossible. Colors moved across her surface, shifting from deep blue to soft purple to bright silver. She was tall, taller than most humans, with a graceful way of moving that reminded Daijung of water flowing. She was Karathi. Daijung had heard of them but never seen one in person. The Karathi rarely left their homeworlds. They were known for being very private, very careful about who they allowed near them. This one wore flowing robes that seemed to float around her body. Her face was elegant with large eyes that glowed faintly with inner light. Daijung could not look away. She was the most beautiful being he had ever seen. A human diplomat stood next to her, talking and gesturing. The Karathi woman listened carefully. When she responded, her skin flashed with patterns of light that seemed to pulse in rhythm with her words. Daijung's translator device picked up her voice, which sounded like music mixed with normal speech. "We appreciate the hospitality of Harmony Point," she said. "The Karathi delegation hopes this visit will strengthen bonds between our peoples." Other species gathered around, all wanting to greet her and her companions. There were 3 other Karathi in the group, but Daijung only had eyes for her. He felt foolish. He was just a maintenance worker covered in grease and sweat. She was clearly important, probably a diplomat or scientist. Their worlds were completely different. He should leave. He should go eat his meal and forget about her. But his feet would not move. Tae-min, his friend and fellow technician, appeared beside him. "Hey, you coming to eat or what?" Tae-min followed Daejung's gaze and laughed. "Oh no, don't tell me you're staring at the Ice Princess." "Ice Princess?" Daejung asked. "That's what the station crew calls the Karathi. They don't let anyone touch them. Their skin can turn hard like diamond and cut you in half if you get too close without permission. Plus, they're super formal about everything. No jokes, no casual talk, definitely no romance." Tae-min pulled on Daejung's arm. "Come on, man. She's way out of your league. Hell, she's out of everyone's league." Daejung let himself be pulled away, but he looked back one more time. The Karathi woman had turned slightly. For just a moment he thought she looked in his direction. Her skin flashed with a pattern of gold and green. Then she turned back to the diplomats. Over the next few days, Daijung found himself working near the diplomatic wing more often. He volunteered for repairs in that sector. He took longer routes through corridors where he might see her. He felt like a foolish child, but he could not help himself. He learned her name was Velsha. She was a cultural specialist, here to help the Karathi government understand other species better. She spent her days in meetings and walking through the station, observing how different aliens interacted. One evening, Daejung sat in the observation lounge, pretending to read on his datapad. In truth, he was watching Velsha, who stood alone by the window. The other Karathi had retired for the night, but she remained, looking out at the stars. Her skin glowed softly in the dim light of the lounge, colors moving slowly across her surface like gentle waves. She looked peaceful. Almost sad, Daejung thought, though he had no idea how to read Karathi emotions. He wondered what she was thinking. Did she miss her home? Did she find the station and all its different species overwhelming? Did she ever feel lonely? "I wish I could lay with her," Daejung muttered in Korean, his native language. He spoke quietly, mostly to himself, expressing a longing he knew was impossible, not just because of their different species, but because of everything that separated them. Status, culture, biology, everything. He stood up, ready to leave before he made a fool of himself. But then Velsha turned. She looked directly at him. Her eyes were wide, and her skin suddenly burst into bright patterns of white and gold that pulsed rapidly across her body. Daejung froze. His heart hammered in his chest. Velsha walked toward him. Her movements were quick, almost urgent. She stopped a few feet away, closer than he had ever seen a Karathi stand to another species. You speak the old languages of Earth, she said. Her voice was tight with some emotion he could not identify. Korean, yes? Daejung nodded, unable to speak. Your translator device was not active, Velsha continued. But I understood you. My people, we have biological translation. We can understand all languages, even when not amplified by technology. Her skin continued its rapid pattern changes. Do you understand what you said to me? Daejung's face grew hot. He had thought no one could hear him, that he was safely speaking in his own language. I apologize if I offended you. I meant no disrespect. Disrespect? Velsha tilted her head. You said you wished to lay with me. Do you understand what that means to my people? Daejung shook his head, confused and embarrassed. I'm sorry, I didn't mean. It's just an expression I didn't think. To lay with someone for the Karathi is the highest form of trust, Velsha said softly. Her skin had changed to deep blue with silver threads running through it. It means to sleep in their presence, to enter rest state when we are completely vulnerable and defenseless. We only do this with family, with bondmates, with those we trust absolutely with our lives. Daejung's mouth went dry. I didn't know. No human has ever expressed such a desire to a Karathi before, Velsha said. She studied him with those glowing eyes. You are either very brave or very foolish. Probably foolish, Daejung admitted. For the first time, Velsha's color shifted to something that almost looked like amusement. Soft pinks and warm oranges rippled across her skin. Perhaps, she said. But interesting nonetheless. Daejung could not sleep that night. He lay in his small quarters, staring at the ceiling, replaying the conversation over and over in his mind. He had made such a fool of himself. What kind of idiot speaks out loud like that, thinking no one can understand? But Velsha had not seemed angry. Confused, maybe. Surprised, definitely, but not angry. He tried to understand what she had told him. To the Karathi, sleeping near someone was sacred. It was not about romance or physical desire like it often was for humans. It was about trust, about being completely vulnerable with another person. That made it even more embarrassing in a way. He had accidentally said something far more intimate than he intended. The next day, Daejung tried to focus on his work. He had a long list of repairs to complete. The station was old and something was always breaking. He was in the middle of rewiring a power relay when his communicator beeped. Technician Daejung, please report to conference room 7 in the diplomatic wing. He stared at the communicator. Why would the diplomatic wing need him? He checked the repair logs. There were no maintenance requests for that area. His stomach twisted with nervousness. This had to be about last night. He cleaned himself up as much as he could and made his way to the conference room. When the door opened, he found Velsha inside, alone. She stood by the window, her skin displaying calm patterns of blue and green. Please sit, she said, gesturing to the chairs around the table. Daejung sat, keeping his eyes on his hands. I truly am sorry about last night. I should have been more careful with my words. Why do you apologize? Velsha asked. She sat across from him, her posture perfect and graceful. You expressed a feeling. There is no shame in feelings. But I made you uncomfortable, Daejung said. Not uncomfortable. Surprised. Velsha's skin flickered with patterns of gold. In all my studies of human culture, I have never encountered such a statement. Humans are known for being bold, sometimes reckless. But this, she paused, searching for words. This was something different. It was stupid, Daejung said. I know that Karathi and humans are not compatible. Different biology, different needs. I was just speaking without thinking. Do you know why the Karathi never sleep in the presence of other species? Velsha asked. Daejung remembered what Taemin had said. Because you can hurt them. Your skin becomes like weapons. Precisely. When we enter rest state, our defensive systems remain active. Our bodies protect us unconsciously. If another being comes too close while we sleep, our skin hardens into sharp edges. We have killed without meaning to. It is why we never ever rest near others. Velsha leaned forward slightly. For thousands of years this has been true. It is part of our biology, something we cannot control. I understand, Daejung said quietly. Do you? Velsha's eyes seemed to glow brighter. Then help me understand why a human would wish for something so dangerous. Your kind values life, values safety, yet you expressed a desire that could easily result in your death. Daejung thought carefully before answering. In my language, in my culture, the phrase means something else. Something about wanting to be close to someone, to know them better. I was not thinking about the literal meaning. But you understand the literal meaning now, Velsha said. So I ask again, if you knew that laying beside me could kill you, would you still wish it? The question hung in the air between them. Daejung looked up and met her eyes. I don't know, he said honestly. Maybe it makes me crazy, but part of me says yes. Because trust has to start somewhere, doesn't it? Even if it's dangerous. Velsha's skin rippled with colors he had not seen before. Deep purples mixed with bright whites, patterns that moved quickly and then slowly. You are either the bravest human I have met, or the most foolish. You said that last night too, Daejung said with a small smile. Because I still cannot decide which is true. For the first time, something that might have been humor showed in her expression. Perhaps both. Over the following days, something unexpected happened. Velsha sought out Daejung's company. She would appear in the corridors where he worked, asking questions about human culture and customs. He tried to explain things that seemed normal to him but were strange to her. So humans often touch each other casually, she asked one day. They sat in a quiet corner of the station's garden dome, surrounded by plants from a dozen different worlds. Yes, handshakes, hugs, pats on the back. It's how we show friendship or support, Daejung explained. Fascinating. For the Karathi, any touch must be negotiated carefully. We must consciously lower our defenses or we could harm the other person. Velsha looked at her own hands. I have never touched another species. Not once in my entire life. That must be lonely, Daejung said softly. Velsha was quiet for a long moment. Yes, it is. They talked about many things. Velsha explained Karathi philosophy, their understanding of trust and connection. She told him about her home world with its crystal forests and singing rivers. Daejung shared stories of Earth, of the ocean he grew up near, of his family and friends. But their growing friendship did not go unnoticed. Rixtal, the head of the Karathi delegation, called Velsha to a private meeting. Daejung did not know what was said, but when Velsha found him afterward, her skin was dim, colors muted. Rixtal believes I am wasting time with you, she said. He says that I am here to study alien cultures from a distance, not to befriend them. Especially not humans. Why especially not humans? Daejung asked. Because your kind has a reputation. You bond quickly, feel deeply, and then you suffer when those bonds are broken. Rixtal says you are dangerous to my mission, that I might forget my duty. Maybe he's right, Daejung said, though the words hurt to speak. Maybe, Velsha agreed. But she did not leave. She stayed beside him, her skin slowly brightening again. Or maybe he is wrong. Maybe some connections are worth the risk. Taemin found Daejung in the maintenance bay later that evening. Hey man, we need to talk. Daejung looked up from the engine part he was cleaning. About what? About you and the Karathi woman. Everyone's talking about it. You know this can't work, right? She's going to leave when her mission is done. She'll go back to her world and you'll be here missing someone you can never truly be with. Taemin's face was concerned. I don't want to see you hurt. I know the risks, Daejung said, do you? Because from where I'm standing, you're falling for someone who lives in a completely different reality than you. Different biology, different culture, different everything. What do you think happens next? You hold hands? You can't. You go on dates. How you build a life together? Where? Taemin shook his head. I'm your friend. I'm trying to protect you from a heartbreak that you can see coming from a mile away. Daejung set down his tools. Maybe you're right. Maybe this is all foolish and will end badly. But Taemin, when I'm with her, I feel like I'm part of something bigger. Like we're proving that different species can truly understand each other. Not just work together, but really connect. Isn't that worth something? Not if it destroys you, Taemin said quietly. But Daejung could not stop. And neither, it seemed, could Velsha. 3 weeks had passed since that first conversation in the observation lounge. Daejung had learned more about the Karathi than he ever thought possible. Velsha was patient with his questions, and he tried to be patient with hers. They were building something together, though neither of them could quite name what it was. Today they sat in the station's library, a quiet space filled with data terminals and actual physical books from various worlds. Velsha had become fascinated by human literature, particularly poetry. This one speaks of love as a fire, she said, reading from a tablet. But fire destroys. Why do humans use it as a metaphor for something they value? Because fire also warms, Daejung explained. It gives light in darkness. It can destroy, yes, but it can also sustain life. Love is like that too. Intense, sometimes dangerous but necessary, Velshaw's skin displayed patterns of deep orange and red, mimicking the fire they discussed. The Kirathi do not think of love this way. For us, love is like crystal forming, slow, patient, building layer upon layer until something strong and permanent exists. It cannot be rushed. Maybe both ways are valid, Daejung suggested. Perhaps. Velshaw set down the tablet and looked at him. Daejung, do you feel this fire when you are near me? The question caught him off guard. He had been trying not to think too deeply about his feelings, knowing they led nowhere. But Velshaw's eyes held genuine curiosity, and he found he could not lie to her. Yes, he said simply. Her colors shifted to something soft and uncertain. I do not know if I feel fire, but I feel something. A pull toward you that I have never experienced with another being. It confuses me. Before Daejung could respond, another Kirathi entered the library. It was Rixtel, his skin displaying sharp patterns of black and red. He spoke in the Kirathi language, rapid and harsh. Daejung's translator picked up fragments, disgraceful, compromising the mission. Inappropriate attachment. Velshaw stood, her own skin flashing with defensive patterns. She responded in their language, her voice firm. The conversation grew heated. Other visitors in the library looked over, uncomfortable with the display. Finally, Rixtal turned and left, his movements stiff with anger. Velshaw sat down heavily, her colors dim and muddy. He wants me removed from the delegation, she said quietly. He says I have forgotten my purpose, that I have allowed personal feelings to interfere with objective study. Has he officially complained? Daejung asked. Not yet, but he will if I continue to spend time with you. He believes I am being contaminated by human thinking, that I am losing my Kirathi identity. She looked at her hands. Maybe he is right. Do you believe that? Daejung asked. I don't know what I believe anymore. Velshaw's voice was barely above a whisper. Everything I was taught says that deep connections with other species are dangerous, that we must maintain distance to preserve ourselves. But when I am with you, that distance feels wrong. It feels like a wall I want to break down. Daejung reached out his hand, stopping just short of touching her arm. I wish I could offer comfort, but I can't even do that without risking harm. That is the cruel joke of it all, isn't it? Velshaw looked at his outstretched hand. I feel closer to you than I have felt to anyone, yet we cannot even touch. We exist in separate worlds, reaching toward each other but never truly connecting. The words hung heavy between them. Daejung pulled his hand back. That evening, Daejung met with Dr. Hana in her xenobiology lab. She was one of the station's leading experts on alien physiology, and he had finally worked up the courage to ask for her help. So let me understand this correctly, Dr. Hana said, her expression neutral as she reviewed her data screens. You want to know if there is any way for a human and a Kirathi to safely achieve physical proximity during rest state? Yes, Daejung said. Dr. Hana leaned back in her chair. The short answer is no. The Kirathi defensive response is involuntary and biological. It has evolved over millions of years. Their bodies protect them even when their conscious minds don't want protection. What's the long answer? Daejung asked. Dr. Hana pulled up several files on her screens. There have been 3 documented cases of Kirathi entering rest state near other species. All 3 resulted in severe injury or death to the other being. The Kirathi subjects were horrified and traumatized by what their bodies did. She turned to face him directly. Daejung, I know you care about this woman, but what you're asking about is suicide. I'm not asking to try it, Daejung said quickly. I just want to understand. Is there any scenario, any circumstance where it could be safe? Dr. Hana was quiet for a long moment. There are old stories, legends really. The Kirathi have a concept called Kaltesh. It roughly translates to soul recognition. The idea is that when 2 beings are so perfectly matched, so deeply connected, that even biology bends to accommodate the bond. The body recognizes the other as family, as self, and the defensive systems deactivate. Has it ever been proven? Daejung asked. No. Most Kirathi scientists consider it mythology, a romantic fairy tale to make their isolation seem less permanent. Dr. Hana pulled up more data. But I will say this. I've been monitoring the station's bioscanners and I've noticed something interesting. When Velshaw is near you, her bioluminescent patterns change in unusual ways. They're more stable, more coherent. It could mean nothing. Or it could mean her body is responding to your presence in ways that are not typical. What does that mean? Taejung felt hope rising in his chest. Honestly, I don't know, but it's worth studying. Dr. Hana made some notes. I would like to run some tests with both of your permission. Nothing invasive, just scans and observations. It might help us understand what's happening between you two. Meanwhile, Velsha was having her own difficult conversation. She had sought out Kira, her old mentor from her home world. Kira was ancient by Karathi standards, her skin permanently set in patterns of deep wisdom blues and silvers. They spoke over a long-distance communication channel. You speak of Caltesh as if it might be real, Kira said, her voice crackling slightly over the distance. Child, that is a story we tell the young to give them hope. It is not something that actually occurs. But what if it could? Velsha pressed. What if the legends have some basis in truth? Our ancestors must have believed it for some reason. They believed it because the alternative was too lonely to bear, Kira said gently. The Karathi have always been isolated by our biology. The stories of Caltesh made that isolation bearable. But believing in fairy tales will not change reality. I feel something when I am with him, Velsha insisted, something I have never felt before. My body responds differently. My patterns change. Is that not worth investigating? Kira's expression softened. Oh, my dear child, I can hear in your voice that you have already fallen, and I fear for you because this path leads only to pain. Even if your feelings are genuine, even if his are too, biology cannot be overcome by emotion. You will still be two beings who cannot truly be together. Then what should I do? Velsha asked, her colors betraying her distress. Come home, Kira said. End the mission early. Put distance between yourself and this human before the bond grows stronger. It will hurt now, but it will hurt far worse if you wait. But even as Kira spoke the words, Velsha knew she would not follow them. She was in too deep, too curious, too hopeful that maybe, just maybe, the old stories held some truth. Dr. Hana's laboratory became a second home for Daejung and Velsha over the next 2 weeks. The xenobiology specialist had designed a series of tests to measure their biological responses to each other's presence. The setup was simple but thorough. They would sit in the same room, separated by various distances, while sensors recorded everything. Heart rates, brain activity, body temperature, hormone levels. For Velsha, the equipment also tracked her skin patterns, the crystalline structure changes, and the energy signatures her body naturally produced. Okay, today we're starting at 5 meters apart, Dr. Hana said, adjusting her equipment. Just sit comfortably and talk like you normally would. Pretend I'm not here. That was easier said than done. Daejung felt awkward with all the sensors attached to him. But when Velsha began speaking about a book she had read, he gradually relaxed. They fell into their usual easy conversation. Dr. Hana watched her screens with growing interest. After an hour, she called for a break. The results are fascinating, she said, displaying the data. Velsha, your bioluminescent patterns stabilize significantly when you're talking to Daejung. The frequency becomes more regular, more coherent. And Daejung, your stress hormones drop by nearly 40% in her presence. What does that mean? Velsha asked. It means you calm each other down. Your bodies recognize each other as safe, as positive presences. Dr. Hana made more notes. Now this isn't proof of Caltesh, but it's unusual. Most Karathi show increased stress responses near other species, not decreased ones. Over the following sessions, they reduced the distance gradually. 5 meters became 4, then 3, then 2. Each time the data showed the same pattern. Velsha's defensive systems remained quiet. Her skin did not harden into weapons. Her colors stayed soft and warm. How close do you think we can get? Daejung asked one day. Dr. Hana considered the question carefully. In theory, we could try 1 meter. But Daejung, I need you to understand the risk. Even if her conscious mind is calm, her unconscious defenses could activate. If they do at 1 meter distance, you would be seriously injured. I trust her, Daejung said. That's not the issue. She can't control this. It's like asking someone not to blink when something flies at their eye. The response is automatic. Dr. Hana looked at Velsha. Are you comfortable trying? Velsha's skin displayed patterns of anxiety, quick flashes of white and yellow. I am frightened of hurting him. But I also want to know. I need to know if this is real, or if we are deluding ourselves. They set up the test with extra precautions. Emergency medical staff waited outside. Dr. Hana had a remote device that could deploy a barrier between them if needed. Everyone was tense. Daejung sat in his chair. Velsha slowly moved her chair closer. 3 meters. 2 meters. 1.5. Her skin began showing faster pattern changes, anxiety breaking through. I can feel it, she said. My body wants to defend itself. The instinct is rising. We can stop, Dr. Hana said quickly. No. Velshaw closed her eyes, focusing. I want to try. She moved to 1 meter exactly. Daejung could see her clearly now. Could see the individual crystal structures in her skin. The way light moved through her like water through ice. She was even more beautiful up close. Talk to me, Velshaw said, her voice tight. Please just talk, so Daejung talked. He told her about his childhood, about growing up near the ocean. He described the sound of waves, the smell of salt water, the feeling of sand between his toes. He talked about his family, his dreams, his fears. As he spoke, Velshaw's patterns began to slow. The anxious flashes became gentle waves. Her skin softened. The tension left her shoulders. Dr. Hana watched her screens with wide eyes. Incredible, she whispered. Her defensive matrix is active but dormant. It's recognizing Daejung's presence as non-threatening. I've never seen anything like this. They stayed at 1 meter for 10 minutes. Then 20. Then a full hour. Nothing went wrong. Velshaw's body remained calm, her defenses quiet. When they finally ended the session, both of them were exhausted but elated. This is significant, Dr. Hana said, reviewing the data. I need to show this to other xenobiologists. This could change everything we understand about Karathi, biology. But not everyone was pleased with the research. Rixtel filed an official complaint with both the Karathi government and the station administration. He argued that the experiments were dangerous and unethical, that Velsha was being manipulated, that her biology was being compromised for human curiosity. Captain Young-soo, the station administrator, called Daejung to his office. The captain was an older man with gray hair and tired eyes. He had run Harmony Point for 15 years and had seen countless conflicts between species. I've read Dr. Hana's reports, Young-soo said. The research is impressive, but I'm getting pressure from multiple sources to shut it down. The Karathi delegation is threatening to leave the station entirely if we continue. Sir, we're not doing anything dangerous, Daejung said. We're careful. We have safety protocols. I believe you. But this isn't just about safety. It's about politics, about interspecies relations. Young-soo rubbed his temples. The Karathi are private people. They don't like their biology being studied. They especially don't like the suggestion that one of their own might be forming a bond with a human. Why does that matter so much to them? Daejung asked. Because it challenges everything they believe about themselves. For thousands of years, the Karathi have defined themselves by their isolation. They are the species that cannot touch, cannot bond with others. It's central to their identity. If you and Velsha prove that's not always true, it undermines their entire cultural foundation. Young-soo stood and walked to his window, looking out at the stars. I'm not going to stop the research, not yet. But I need you to understand what you're up against. This isn't just about two people falling for each other. This is about challenging the fundamental beliefs of an entire species. That makes people uncomfortable. It makes them afraid. And fear makes them dangerous. That night, Velsha received a message from her home world. It was from the High Council themselves. They ordered her to cease all personal contact with humans immediately. They demanded she complete her mission in a strictly professional capacity and return home within 1 month. She sat in her quarters, reading the message over and over. Her skin displayed patterns of deep sadness, dark blues and grays that barely moved. There was a chime at her door. She knew who it would be. Enter. Daejung stepped inside. He saw her colors immediately and understood. They ordered you home. Not yet, but soon. And they forbid me from continuing the research with Dr. Hana. They say I am bringing shame to my people. Velsha looked up at him. They say I am forgetting what it means to be Karathi. What do you say? Daejung asked. I say that I am tired of being defined by what I cannot do. Tired of living in fear of my own biology. Tired of being alone. Her colors brightened with anger. My entire life I have been taught that connection with other species is impossible. That I must accept isolation as my fate. But you have shown me something different. You have shown me that maybe, just maybe, there is another way. What are you going to do? Daejung asked. Velsha stood, her full height impressive in the small quarters. I am going to continue the research. I am going to prove that Kaltesh is real. And I am going to show my people that our biology does not have to be a prison. That might cost you everything, Daejung warned. I know. Velshaw's colors showed determination, bright golds and silvers. But what is everything worth if I spend it afraid? You humans have a saying, don't you, about ships being safe in harbor? Daejung smiled. A ship is safe in harbor, but that's not what ships are built for. Exactly. Velshaw moved closer to him, as close as she dared. I am tired of being safe. I want to sail. Dr. Hana agreed to continue the research privately. They would work during off hours, document everything carefully, and build a case that was too strong to ignore. If they could prove that cross-species bonding was possible, that the Karathi defensive response could adapt, it would revolutionize xenobiology. But more than that, it would give Daejung and Velsha a future, a real one, together. The alarm started at 3 a.m, station time. Daejung jolted awake in his quarters, his emergency communicator buzzing urgently. All maintenance personnel report immediately. Life support failure in Sector 12. Repeat, life support failure in Sector 12. He dressed quickly and ran to the maintenance bay. The sector chief was coordinating teams, assigning different areas to different crews. When Daejung arrived, the chief looked stressed. We've got a major coolant leak. The whole sector is being evacuated. But we need teams checking the backup systems. Daejung, you take compartment 12G. Check the emergency air supply and seal any breaches you find. Daejung grabbed his equipment and headed out. Sector 12 was in the older part of the station, where the diplomatic quarters were located. As he ran through the corridors, he saw people being evacuated. Aliens of various species, all looking worried as they filed toward safety. He reached compartment 12G and entered the access code. The door slid open and he stepped inside. The compartment was cold, much colder than it should be. The main heating had already failed. He pulled out his scanner and began checking the systems. Hello? Is someone there? A familiar voice called out. Daejung's heart jumped. Velsha. She emerged from behind a large equipment bank. Her skin was displaying patterns of distress, rapid flashes of white and blue. I was checking on something when the alarm sounded. The door to the main corridor sealed before I could reach it. What were you doing here? Daejung asked. Research. Dr. Hana asked me to retrieve some biological samples she had stored in this sector. Velsha moved closer to him. Can you open the door? Daejung tried the controls, nothing. He checked his scanner. The emergency lockdown sealed this entire section. The door won't open until the leak is contained and the sector is cleared safe. That could take hours. How many hours? Velsha asked. Could be 6, could be 18. Depends on how bad the damage is. Daejung looked around the compartment. We have emergency air so we won't suffocate. But the heating is offline and it's going to get colder. He was right. Over the next 2 hours, the temperature steadily dropped. Daejung found some emergency blankets and thermal packs, but they only helped so much. The compartment had not been designed for long-term occupation. It was just a maintenance space, full of equipment and storage, but not meant for people to stay in. They sat together on the floor, wrapped in blankets. Daejung had contacted the sector chief to let them know where they were. The response was not encouraging. Hang tight, Daejung. We're dealing with multiple crisis points. You two are safe where you are, so you're low priority. We'll get you out as soon as we can. Velsha's colors were becoming more muted as the cold affected her. My species does not handle extreme cold well. Our metabolism slows down. Eventually, we enter a forced rest state to conserve energy. Can you fight it? Daejung asked, worried. For a while, but not forever. She pulled the blanket tighter around herself. Daejung, if I do enter rest state, you must stay away from me. My defenses will activate. Even with everything we have learned, the cold will make my body more reactive, more dangerous. I understand, he said, though the thought of leaving her alone in that state made him sick. They talked to pass the time and stay warm. Velsha told him more stories of her home world, describing festivals and traditions. Daejung shared memories of his family, of his mother's cooking and his father's terrible jokes. But the cold was relentless. After 6 hours, Velsha began to fade. Her voice grew slower, her movements sluggish. Her colors dimmed to barely visible patterns. I cannot fight it anymore, she whispered. I'm sorry. Don't be sorry, just rest. I'll be right here, Daejung said. No, you must stay away. Promise me. Her eyes were pleading. If I harm you while I sleep, I will never forgive myself. I promise, Daejung lied. Velsha's eyes closed. Her skin began to change, the crystal structure shifting and hardening. The defensive mode was activating. Sharp edges started to form along her arms and shoulders. Even unconscious, her body was preparing to protect itself. Daejung moved to the far side of the compartment as he had promised. He watched her, making sure she was still breathing. The temperature continued to drop. He checked his scanner. -5 degrees and falling. At this rate, he could handle it for a while longer with the thermal packs. But Velshaw's body temperature was dropping too fast. Her species needed warmth. Without it, she might not wake up at all. He tried contacting the sector chief again.
Any update on when we can get out?
Another 8 hours at minimum. The leak is worse than we thought. Stay warm, stay safe. 8 more hours. Velsha did not have 8 more hours. Daejung looked at her still form, at the defensive edges that had formed on her skin. He thought about Dr. Hana's research, about the way Velshaw's body had responded to his presence in the lab, about Kaltesh and whether it was real. He thought about Taiman's warnings, about Rikstal's anger, about all the logical reasons why this was impossible. But he also thought about Velsha's laugh, about the way her colors brightened when she was happy, about the connection they had built. A ship is safe in harbor, but that's not what ships are built for. Daejung stood up. He took off his thermal pack and approached Velsha slowly. Her defensive edges glinted in the dim light, sharp enough to cut through metal. One wrong move and they would cut through him just as easily. "I'm sorry for breaking my promise," he said softly, "but I'm not going to let you freeze." He knelt beside her, moving carefully. Her body did not react yet. The defenses were active but not triggered. He opened his thermal pack and placed it gently against her side. Still no reaction. Encouraged, he wrapped one of the emergency blankets around her. Then, knowing he might be making the last decision of his life, he lay down beside her. Not touching, but close enough to share body heat. Her body tensed. The edges on her skin grew sharper, longer. They turned toward him like reaching blades. Daejung held his breath, every muscle frozen. Then, slowly, the edges began to retract. The sharp points softened. Velshaw's colors shifted from the harsh white of defensive mode to something gentler. Soft blues and greens rippled across her skin. She was still in rest state, still unconscious. But her body had recognized him, had chosen not to harm him. Daejung let out a breath he did not know he was holding. He moved slightly closer, careful and slow. His warmth began to transfer to her. Her body temperature started to stabilize. The colors on her skin grew brighter. He stayed like that for hours, barely moving, barely breathing, just providing warmth and presence, proving that sometimes trust was stronger than biology. That connection could overcome instinct. After what felt like forever, the door to the compartment finally opened. Jiwoo, one of the station's security officers, stood in the doorway with a medical team. She stared at the scene before her, eyes wide with shock. How
are you still alive?"
Jiwoo asked. "I'm not entirely sure," Daejung admitted. The medical team rushed in. They checked Velshaw first, scanning her vital signs. "She's stable," one of them reported. "Body temperature is low but rising. She should wake up naturally in a few hours." They helped Daejung up. His body was stiff from lying still for so long in the cold. They wrapped him in warm blankets and checked him over. "You're lucky," Jiwoo said. "That was incredibly stupid and incredibly brave." "I know," Daejung said. He looked back at Velsha. "But I'd do it again." Velsha woke up in the medical bay 12 hours later. Daejung was sitting beside her bed, refusing to leave despite the doctors telling him to rest. Her eyes opened and her colors immediately shifted to confusion and then fear. You stayed near me. While I was in rest state." Her voice was hoarse. "I had to. You were too cold. I could have killed you. Should have killed you. My defenses." She tried to sit up, looking at her own hands in disbelief. "Didn't activate. Not against me." Daejung took her hand gently, the first time they had ever touched skin to skin. Her surface was cool and smooth, like polished stone but with warmth beneath. "Your body knew me. Trusted me. Even when you were unconscious." Velsha stared at their joined hands. Colors rippled across her skin, patterns of wonder and joy and disbelief all mixed together. "Kaltesh," she whispered. "It's real. It's actually real." News of what happened in compartment 12G spread through Harmony Point Station like wildfire. Within hours, everyone knew that a human had survived lying beside a sleeping Karathi. Within a day, the story had reached other stations, other worlds. Within a week, it was galactic news. The Karathi delegation was in chaos. Rixtal stood before the station's council chambers, his skin displaying harsh patterns of black and red. This is a violation of natural law, a corruption of Karathi biology. That human did something to Velsha, used some technology or chemical to suppress her natural defenses. She must be quarantined immediately and examined. Captain Youngsu sat at the head of the council table looking exhausted. Beside him were representatives from various species, all with opinions about what had happened. "We have examined Velsha thoroughly," Dr. Hana reported. "There are no signs of drug use, no technological interference, no biological manipulation of any kind. Her defensive systems are functioning exactly as they should." "Then explain how a human survived," Rixtal demanded. "I can't, not completely. But based on my research over the past weeks, I believe this is a natural phenomenon. Velsha's body has adapted to recognize Daejung as non-threatening. It's unprecedented but not impossible." A representative from the Thelian species, an insectoid diplomat named Click 7, spoke up. "If this is true, it has massive implications. The Karathi have always maintained that their biology makes deep connection with other species impossible. If that is false, many treaties and agreements may need to be reconsidered. This is exactly why we must investigate thoroughly," another delegate added. "We need to understand what happened and whether it can happen again." Rixtal's colors flared brighter. "Velsha is not a laboratory specimen. She is a member of my delegation, and I am ordering her immediate return to our homeworld." "You can't order her to do anything," a voice said from the doorway. Everyone turned. Velsha entered the chamber, her skin displaying colors of determination and defiance. Gold and silver patterns flowed across her surface. "I am an adult Karathi citizen. I choose where I go and what I do." "You have forgotten yourself," Rixtal said coldly. "You have forgotten your duty, your people, your very nature. This human has corrupted you. Daejung has shown me possibilities I never imagined. He has not corrupted me. He has freed me." Velsha stood tall, facing down her superior without fear. "For my entire life I believed I was cursed, that my biology made me forever alone, forever separate from others. But I was wrong. Or rather, I was taught wrong." "Be careful what you say," Rixtal warned. "Why?"
What will you do?
"Send me home?" "I am already planning to leave. But not to run away. To show others what is possible." Velsha's colors brightened even more. "The High Council needs to see this. They need to understand that Kaltesh is not a myth, that we are not doomed to isolation." "They will never accept it," Rixtal said. "You will be seen as damaged, as broken. They will study you like a disease. Then let them. I would rather be studied as something new than accepted as something limited." The council chamber erupted in discussion. Different species had different opinions. Some saw this as a scientific breakthrough. Others saw it as a political crisis. Everyone had questions. Captain Youngsu called for order. "This situation is complex and requires careful handling. I propose that we allow independent researchers from multiple species to examine what happened. We need objective data, not emotional reactions." "I agree," Dr. Hana said, "and I would like to volunteer to lead that research team." But while the politicians debated, Daejung faced his own problems. He was called in for questioning by multiple security departments. They wanted to know everything: what he did, why he did it, whether he had planned it. Some of the questioners seemed to think he had deliberately put Velsha in danger to prove a point. "Did you sabotage the life support system?" One investigator asked. "What? No! I'm a maintenance technician. Why would I damage the station I live on?" Daejung was insulted by the suggestion. To create an opportunity, to force the situation with Velsha. That's insane. I had no idea we would be trapped together. It was random chance. The questioning went on for hours. Different people asking the same questions in different ways. Daejung told the truth over and over, but he could tell some people did not believe him. Taemin visited him after one particularly long session. "Hey man, you look terrible." "I feel terrible," Daejung admitted. They sat in the station's garden dome, surrounded by plants and the sound of artificial water. "Everyone treats me like I'm either a hero or a criminal. Nobody just sees me as a guy who cared about someone and tried to help. That's because you're not just a guy anymore. You're a symbol. You're the human who proved that cross-species bonding is possible. That's huge, Daejung. That's history-making." Taemin shook his head. "I warned you this would be complicated. I just didn't know it would be this complicated." "Do you think I did the wrong thing?" Daejung asked. "No. I think you did the brave thing. But brave and smart aren't always the same. Taman paused. What happens now? Between you and her? I don't know. She has to go back to her home world. Face her government, explain what happened. They might never let her leave again. And you? I wait. Hope. Try to figure out how to build a life with someone from a completely different world. Velsha faced her own interrogations. The Karathi medical team examined her constantly. They scanned every part of her body, tested her defensive responses, analyzed her cellular structure. They were looking for what was wrong with her, what had broken, but they found nothing wrong. Her biology was perfectly normal. That was what terrified them. If there is nothing wrong with you, then the problem is not biological, one of the doctors said. It is mental. You have formed an inappropriate attachment that has overridden your survival instincts. My survival instincts work fine, Velsha argued. They simply recognize Daejung as safe. Because he is safe. No other being is safe for a Kirathi during rest state. This is fundamental to our species. Then perhaps it is time to question what we consider fundamental. The doctor made notes, his own colors showing disapproval. The High Council will make the final decision about your status. Until then, you are confined to the Kirathi quarters. No contact with humans, especially not with that maintenance worker. Velsha's colors flashed with anger. His name is Daejung. His name is irrelevant. He is a threat to Kirathi identity and must be treated as such. They kept her isolated for 3 days. 3 days without seeing Daejung, without being able to talk to him. She tried to send messages, but they were blocked. She tried to leave her quarters, but guards were posted outside. On the 4th day, she received a summons. The High Council wanted to speak with her via long-distance communication. It was time to face the consequences of her choices. The council chamber on her home world appeared on the large screen. 7 members of the High Council sat in a semicircle, their skin displaying the formal patterns of judgment. Ancient, powerful Kirathi who had guided their species for decades. Velsha, you stand accused of betraying your species, the central counselor said. You have formed an inappropriate bond with an alien. You have compromised your biology through reckless behavior. You have made a mockery of our teachings about isolation and safety. How do you answer these charges? Velsha stood straight, her colors showing courage despite her fear. I answer that I have discovered the truth. A truth that our people have hidden from themselves for thousands of years. We are not doomed to isolation. We are not cursed to be alone. We simply convinced ourselves that we were. You speak heresy, another counselor said. I speak from experience. I have felt what Kaltesh truly means. I have known connection that does not harm. My body adapted because my heart led the way. Your heart is not relevant. Biology is what matters. Then explain my biology, Velsha challenged. I have been examined by the best doctors. They find nothing wrong. My defenses work perfectly. They simply do not recognize Daejung as a threat. Why? Because he isn't one. Because trust can reshape even our most basic instincts. The council members conferred among themselves, their colors flashing in rapid patterns that Velsha could not fully read from the distance. Finally, the central counselor spoke. You will return home immediately. You will undergo extensive study. If what you say is true, if this Kaltesh is real and reproducible, it could change everything about how we understand ourselves. But if it is false, if you have simply damaged yourself through foolish attachment, you will face serious consequences. I understand, Velsha said. And the human, this Daejung, he is forbidden from any contact with you. If he truly cares for you, he will stay away and let you heal from the confusion. Velsha's colors shifted to deep sadness. He is not the one I need healing from. The confusion comes from a lifetime of being taught that I am broken when I am simply different. The transmission ended. Velsha was left standing alone in the empty communication room, knowing that the hardest part was yet to come. She had to leave Daejung behind. Had to go home and face her people alone. Had to prove that what they shared was real, not delusion. But she would do it. For herself. For him. For the possibility of a future where Kirathi children would not grow up believing they were cursed to be alone. 6 months passed. 6 long months where Daejung heard nothing from Velsha. He did not know if she was safe, if she was being punished, if she even remembered him. The Kirathi government released no information. They kept everything behind closed doors and sealed communications. Daejung tried to move on. He went back to his maintenance work. He fixed broken systems and repaired damaged equipment. He did everything he was supposed to do, but nothing felt right. The station felt empty without her. Colors seemed duller. Conversations seemed pointless. He had not realized how much light she had brought into his life until that light was gone. Dr. Hana kept him updated on the scientific fallout. Her research papers about Karathi biology and cross-species bonding had been published. They caused massive debates in the xenobiology community. Some scientists praised the work. Others called it dangerous speculation. Everyone wanted more data, more proof. The Karathi government has been conducting their own studies, Dr. Hana told him one day. They sat in her lab, surrounded by equipment that had once measured his and Velshaw's connection. They won't share results, but I have contacts who say the research is extensive. They're testing other Karathi with other species, trying to understand if what happened with you two is unique or reproducible. And? Daejung asked, though he was not sure he wanted to know. No results yet, or none they're sharing. But the fact that they're trying means something. It means they're taking it seriously. Taemin tried to help Daejung cope. They went out together, tried to have fun, tried to pretend things were normal. But Taemin could see the pain his friend carried. Maybe it's time to accept that she's not coming back, Taemin said gently one evening. Not because she doesn't care, but because her people won't let her. You tried something amazing and it was beautiful while it lasted. But maybe that's all it was meant to be. A beautiful moment, not a lifetime. I can't accept that, Daejung said. Not yet. Maybe not ever. Then after 6 months and 12 days, a message arrived at Harmony Point Station. It was addressed to Captain Young-soo, but it was meant for everyone. An official communication from the Karathi High Council. Captain Young-soo called an emergency meeting. The main conference room was packed with representatives from every species on the station. The tension was thick. Everyone knew something important was about to happen. I received this transmission this morning, Young-soo said. I think everyone should hear it. He played the message. The face of the Central Karathi counselor appeared on the screen, his skin displaying formal patterns of importance. People of Harmony Point Station, people of the galaxy, the Karathi High Council has completed extensive research into the phenomenon known as Kaltesh. For 6 months, we have studied our own biology, our own history, our own beliefs. What we have discovered has forced us to confront difficult truths about ourselves. The counselor paused, his colors shifting slightly. For thousands of years, we have taught our children that we are cursed, that our defensive biology makes deep connection impossible, that we must accept isolation as our fate. We were wrong. Not about our biology, but about its limitations. A murmur ran through the conference room. People leaned forward, listening intently. Kaltesh is real. It is rare, but it is real. When a Karathi forms a bond of absolute trust with another being, the body recognizes this and adapts. The defensive systems remain functional, but recategorize the bonded individual as family, as self. This is not a malfunction. It is evolution. It is our biology showing us that we are capable of more than we believed. Daejung's heart pounded. He gripped the edge of his chair, afraid to hope. We have confirmed this through careful study. Velsha's case is not unique. We have found historical records of similar bondings that were suppressed or explained away. We have conducted new experiments that show the phenomenon can occur again, under the right circumstances. It requires genuine trust, genuine connection, and time. But it is possible. The counselor's colors shifted to something that almost looked like humility. The Karathi people owe Velsha an apology. We owe the human Daejung an apology. They showed us truth that we were too afraid to see. They proved that our limitations are self-imposed, not biological. Young-soo paused the message. There's more, but I want to let that sink in. The Karathi just admitted they were wrong about something fundamental to their identity. That's unprecedented, he resumed the message. The counselor continued. The High Council has decided to establish a new program. We will study cross-species bonding formally and carefully. We will help young Karathi understand that isolation is not their only option. We will teach them about Kaltesh, about the possibility of connection. Then the counselor looked directly at the camera. And we have invited Velsha and Daejung to present their findings to the full Karathi assembly. We want our people to hear their story, to understand what is possible when fear does not guide us. The message ended. The conference room erupted in discussion. Everyone had opinions, questions, reactions. But Daejung barely heard any of it. His mind was racing. She was coming back. Velsha was coming back. 3 days later, a Karathi ship docked at Harmony Point Station. Daejung stood in the docking bay with a crowd of others, all waiting to see who would emerge. His hands were shaking. His heart felt like it might burst out of his chest. The airlock opened. Several Karathi emerged, their skin displaying formal travel patterns. And then he saw her. Velsha stepped onto the station, her colors bright and beautiful. Gold and silver and blue all mixed together in patterns that showed joy and nervousness and hope. Their eyes met across the crowded bay. For a moment, neither moved. Then Velsha walked forward, moving through the crowd. People stepped aside, watching. Everyone knew who they were, knew their story. She stopped in front of Daejung. They were close enough to touch, but both hesitated. "I missed you," Velsha said softly. "Every day I missed you." "I thought I'd lost you forever," Daejung replied. "Never. Even when they kept me home, even when they questioned everything about me, I knew I would come back. I knew we would prove them wrong." Her colors shifted with emotion. "May I touch you?" It was a formal question, asked in the old Karathi way, permission requested and waiting to be granted. "Yes," Daejung said. "Always yes." Velsha reached out and took his hand. Her skin was cool and smooth against his. The crowd around them made sounds of amazement. A Karathi touching a human openly, calmly with no defensive response. It was something most of them had never seen. "The High Council wants us to testify," Velsha said. "They want us to tell the Karathi Assembly everything. How we met, how we connected, what happened in that compartment. They want our people to understand that change is possible. Will they accept it?" Daejung asked. "Some will, some won't. Change is always difficult, especially change that challenges fundamental beliefs. But we have proof now. Not just our story, but scientific proof. Dr. Hana's research, the Council's own studies, everything points to the same truth." Velsha squeezed his hand. "We are not alone anymore. Neither of us." Over the next week, they prepared for the testimony. Dr. Hana helped them organize their data. Captain Youngsu helped them write their statement. Taemin helped Daejung practice speaking in front of crowds, since public speaking was not something a maintenance technician usually did. The day of the testimony arrived. It would be broadcast across the Karathi homeworld, to every city and settlement. Millions would watch. Daejung was more nervous than he had ever been in his life. They stood together in a communication chamber, the screen showing the massive Karathi assembly hall. Thousands of Karathi sat in tiered seats, their combined bioluminescence creating waves of color throughout the space. The High Council sat at the front, their formal patterns indicating the importance of the moment. The Central Counselor spoke first, explaining the discovery of Kaltesh, the research that had been conducted, the implications for their society. Then he introduced Velsha and Daejung. Velsha spoke first. She told their story simply and honestly. How they met, how they became friends, how friendship became something deeper. She explained the research with Dr. Hana, the slow process of building trust. The moment in the cold compartment when everything changed. "I was taught that I was dangerous," Velsha said, her voice steady despite the enormous audience, "that my body would hurt anyone who came too close. I believed this my entire life. But Daejung showed me that danger is not inevitable, that with trust, with time, with genuine connection, even our most basic instincts can change. My body did not fail me. It adapted. It evolved. It chose connection over fear." Then it was Daejung's turn. He was not eloquent like Velsha. He did not have fancy words or scientific terminology. He just spoke from his heart. "I'm a maintenance technician. I fix broken things. That's what I do." But Velsha wasn't broken. Neither were her people. They just believed they were because that's what they had been taught. Sometimes the biggest repairs we need to make are not to machines or systems. They're to beliefs, to the stories we tell ourselves about what's possible. He looked at Velsha, her colors showing support and love. "I don't know if I'm special. I don't think I am. I think any human, any being from any species, could form this kind of bond with a Karathi. It just requires one thing.